And for the first time in my life, I experienced work-life balance. And when I tell you that I could never have anticipated what that did for my nervous system, for the first time in my life, by basically saying to myself, like, I'm okay to not go out and try and sign brand deals. I'm okay to not post products. I'm okay to not post what I'm doing in my fucking day-to-day life. I'm going to focus on this one project because I've got enough money from that project and I want to give it my all. Guys, when I tell you I have never felt more calm in my nervous system, I would go to bed, I would sleep for 9 hours, I would wake up the next morning, I would have no anxiety. I wouldn't care to check my phone. I didn't care what people were doing on social media. I didn't care what happened when emails came in. There was no anxiety. I just got to be. Welcome to Healing Honeys, the podcast for girls with big dreams trying to balance it all. I'm Louise Rumble, serial entrepreneur, type A overachiever, healing girly, and holistic wellness coach who also once got called the Jesus of modern dating. But let's get one thing straight. My healing era has never been calm. I'm talking savage dating stories, 20 cigarettes a day, daddy issues, an anxious attachment style, and an autoimmune disorder too. Today, I've spent thousands of dollars on healing and therapy, and now I'm here to guide you, love you, and laugh with you as I share my favorite tips, tricks, and rituals that have saved me along the way. With new episodes every Wednesday, expect girl talk, psychology, and the nervous system, as well as love, sex, and dating, wellness, fitness, and a little bit of business and spirituality too. So get in, honey. We are balancing healing, hustling, and life, and the best is yet to come. And if you're looking for ad-free listening or my somatic healing subscription daily devotion, just head over to the show notes. Now, let's get into it. Hi, my honeys. Welcome back to another episode of the Healing Honeys podcast with me, your host, Louise Rumble. Today is a very rainy day in Mexico City, and I just wanted to check in to give you guys a life update because I feel like so much has been going on in my life, and I've really needed time to process it and think through everything that I've been going through before bringing it to you guys to share with you what I've learned from it, what I think about it, and really what's been going on. And I think sometimes we think, oh, if I can just get to this point, then everything will make sense. And actually what I have realized in life is that it's constantly unfolding and evolving, and we're constantly becoming. So I'm not sat here with any clear answers today, but I'm going to give you an update on what's been going on with me. And I also want to jam on this concept today that we have been sold this dream by the media, by social media, by content creators, by influencers, that working for yourself is the dream, right? That it is the thing you should be doing. And I almost think that there has been some stigma attached to the concept of like actually having a job, a 9-to-5, a corporate job. I really think that there has been this like wave and this push over the last, say, 12 to 24 months, basically saying you should be going out on your own. You should be doing it on your own. You should be working on your own. You know, fuck having a boss, fuck being told what to do, when to be in the office. And I'm going to jam on that today because I'm seeing a very curious evolution of things and people around me actually going the other way, myself included. So I'm going to take you on a rundown of, I guess, like my career history to date, because people have asked me, like, please do more business podcasts. Please share more about how you have done what you've done and built what you've built and made the money that you have. So I'm going to incorporate that into today's episode. And I'm also just going to share what's been going on with me and what I've learned. Because one thing I've been analyzing recently is my human design. There's an episode coming out in the next 2 weeks with a human design expert. And it's helped me realize that at my core of my human design, I am someone that is not meant to live a linear path. And while I've been jealous of people that have just like found their thing and just gone towards it and it's worked, unfortunately and sadly, that is not the way that I was put on this earth. And I'm sure that many other people will feel the same way, that we learn through doing, we learn through things not working, we learn through things working as well. So that is what I'm going to get into today with you. And I'm really excited because there's been a lot of changes going on inside of my head, inside of my heart, inside of my body. And I'm excited to share so it can help you along the way. I also haven't done a life update in ages, so we're just going to jam. I wish you were here having coffee with me. We could do it in person, but instead we're going to do it on the pod. So let's get into it. But before we do, you'll notice that today's episode has no ad roll on it. That is because it's sponsored by Whoop, the wearable that I literally ride or die for. And something big happened last week, which was that the Whoop 5.0 got announced. It got released. I am waiting for mine to come in the post so I can do an unboxing. I am so excited. Now, I've spoken to you before about how they help me be a better businesswoman, how they help me plan my workouts, how they help me even have difficult conversations in life, in love, in relationships. But the Whoop 5.0, the new bands, the new memberships, wow, they have taken it one step further. So not only does the new battery pack last up to 14 days on one charge, which is amazing because your ADHD girl over here, she does lose her charger quite often, but it goes so much deeper than that. Now, they also launched a product called the Whoop MG, and this literally gives you an ECG reading from inside of your Whoop. Now, one of the stresses that I've been going through over the last few weeks and months is my father and him potentially having a heart issue. When this came out, I was like, oh my God, Dad, you need a Whoop. You need to be able to see what is going on inside of your body at any moment. So when that feature was announced, that literally blew my mind. And that's why I love Whoop. It gives you so much safety knowing you can see what is going on inside of your body rather than being scared of it or rather than just hoping everything is fine. The Whoop MG also shows your blood pressure, which is awesome. But the thing that I am most excited to try is the new Whoop age metric. Now, the new metric called Health Span can show you your Whoop age and also your pace of aging. Now, as a 36-year-old that prides herself on looking and feeling 25 years old, I cannot wait to see what my Whoop age is. And not only that, but also the new Whoop gives you these guided insights to actually change the decisions you're making in your day-to-day life, to help build resilience, to help build longevity, to slow that pace of aging so you can feel better for longer. For my busy girlies out there, I also have an episode coming up with Casey Shea in the next few weeks. We're diving into balancing your hormones even when you are so busy, working hard, juggling kids, juggling careers. The new Whoop will help you with that too. Whoop have expanded their commitment to hormone health with new personalized insights around cycle tracking, so you can understand how hormonal fluctuations and your experience with your cycle impact your sleep, strain, recovery, and well-being. I could go on about the new features. There's also 3 new membership tiers. If you want to be a part of the Whoop Awakening, get your new band, and try out these new features, you can just head over to the show notes. All of the information is linked there, including your 1-month free trial by listening to Healing Honeys. And don't forget, you can still get a Whoop 4.0 band just by being a listener. So thank you to Whoop for sponsoring this episode today. It's a fun one. It's an overdue one. And most of all, it's an important one. So let's get into it. Okay, so looking back at my career history from an umbrella point of view, I became a lawyer when I was about 24 years old. I went to a very pushy all-girls school where it was kind of like you were never really given many options around like, what do you want to be? And because of that, I think it was very much like expected that you would either be a doctor or a lawyer. But it was also never said. So it was very like unspoken. It was like, you're a smart girl, you're an intelligent girl, like these are the routes that we would advise you to go down. And same thing with sort of being like, do you want to go to Oxford and Cambridge? If not, you should be going to Durham and Bristol. There was a very like silent hierarchy in the school. Now, don't get me wrong, school was some of the best and happiest days of my life, but there was never a discussion around what excites you or what do you want to do. And as a result of that, and always being told that I am my father's daughter, I decided to become a lawyer. So I went to university. I actually studied business and psychology at university. Fun fact, I nearly failed my psychology in my first year, so much so that I had to switch my modules, which is so crazy because literally 15 years later, I am here with a top 1% psychology podcast, which is crazy. And if that doesn't show that we are meant to evolve and grow over time, then nothing does. But I went down this route. I then did 2 years at law school. Then I went into the law firm and I did 2 years inside of the law firm doing something called a training contract. Then I qualified. So it was during this period that I probably was already pretty unhappy. I was partying hard, not only when I was at university, which was like loosely a traumatizing experience for me all round, but also at law school. Because law school did not stimulate me. It was so boring. It was so dry. And there was like, I guess, a lot of pressure to pass exams constantly. But also there was a lot of free time. So I found that I went to the gym a lot and I also partied a lot. So I was kind of in this really weird phase of my life where I was experiencing disordered eating, but my body looked amazing from the outside. And then I'd go out in the evening and I was taking drugs, and I was in this like weird thing where the outside of my body like looked so good that I had like a lot of fake confidence. But on the inside, I was like holding all of those shame wounds that we have navigated and spoken about so many times on this podcast. So it was like a very weird point in my life. But the reason I'm telling you this is because this is when I thought, hey, I have spare time. Hey, I'm interested in weightlifting. Hey, I love going to the gym. I'm going to start up a blog. So I started on a fitness blog called Lou Deluxe. So I was running this blog alongside training to be a lawyer, whilst also partying, which was like a weird combination. But also what I did realize was that like being in the gym world was that no one was really healthy. It was like very normal to work out really hard in the day and then go out and like smoke 20 cigarettes or like take cocaine in the evening. That's one of the crazy things about Instagram, is like, it's just was kind of surprising that some of my trainers and the people that were training me were actually living this life that I did not think I would expect from the outside. So this was the point probably that like my entrepreneurial abilities came to the forefront. And I set up my first business called the Privé Project. So I had my blog called Lou Deluxe, and then I set up the Privé Project. And that was because I was going into these fitness boutiques like Core Collective, like One Rebel, and I just saw a space to organize community events. Now, bear in mind, this was like 15 years ago, right? I mean, I'm bad with numbers, but like it was maybe 10 years ago. Yeah, it was like 10 or 12 years ago. But at the same time, I was qualifying to be a lawyer, and I had gone and done 6 months living in Dubai as part of my secondment as being a trainee lawyer. And I kind of realized like, look, this is not the way that I want to live my life, but I'm being well paid. And you know what? If I'm going to do this and I'm going to do something that doesn't really fill me up, and I don't think I even realized it didn't fill me up at that point. I just was like working, and I just thought that was like what I had to do for the rest of my life. I felt like, okay, cool. I'm going to go and do this in Dubai where I don't have to pay tax, where I can be on a yacht every weekend, where I can enjoy the sunshine. Not forgetting I'm literally 24 years old, right? So to be in Dubai and have been given a driver and to have been given an apartment, it felt like the best that I could have achieved at that point. And I was loving it. Those 6 months ended. I came back to finish my trainee secondment in London, and I had to get a job, right? So I applied and interviewed and got a job at a Silver Circle law firm in Dubai called Adel Goddard. Went through the whole interview process, got the job, accepted the job, was ready to make that move. Now, I think they gave me like a 3-month period, like a break between jobs. So I literally dove into the fitness industry. I was going to all of the new things that were opening, the new events. I was taking photos. I was making friends. I'm still very good friends with some of the people that I met during that period. I even went into business as one of them. And this is where the crazy butterfly effect happened. So I remember that I went into One Rebel one day, which was a boutique fitness gym, and I was like blown away. This was like before boutique fitness gyms were a thing. I was blown away at the design, at the fact that there was a Smeg fridge in the changing rooms with ice cold towels, that it was the coolest place I'd ever been to with the coolest people I had ever seen. And I left that boutique that evening, and I remember I was standing at the bus stop going back to Shoreditch, which is where my toxic ex-boyfriend at the time lived. And I found the owners of One Rebel, James and Giles, on Instagram, and I DM'd them. I had nothing to say other than, I have just walked into your club and I have been blown away. That was so amazing. They replied saying, come in, let's meet. We've actually seen what you've been doing in the fitness space. And so I went in and I had nothing to say, nothing to pitch. And they were like, pitch us. I'm like, what do you mean pitch us? Anyway, I just sat there, and in the moment I decided that I thought I could tell them that I thought I could help them bringing community into their clubs, and that I love what they were doing and I wanted to be a part of it. And the next thing I know, they're telling me, quit your job in Dubai, come and become our head of brand and marketing. Now, this was crazy for me, right? I had just spent 4 years training to be a lawyer in total, plus 3 years at university. So however many years studying, to get to the point that everyone wanted me to get to, myself included, my dad included, for me to turn around and say, I think I'm going to not take this job in Dubai. And I think I'm going to take this job that I have no qualifications in and no experience in. Now, this is when something crazy happened. And I remember this is why you should always ask the universe for signs when you need a sign for something. I remember literally saying to the universe, like I had 24 hours to make this decision. And I said to the universe, please give me a sign. And I got onto a tube in London. This is so crazy. In London, like on our metro, on our tube, there are adverts like above where you sit. And I got into this one carriage. It was totally empty. There was no adverts. There were no people. I sat down and I looked up. Oh, wait, there was one advert. What did it say? Thinking about going to Dubai? Question mark. Look a little closer to home. That was it. That was my universal sign. That was the universe saying, you're thinking about going to Dubai. You should take the job closer to home. So I did. And taking that job was the thing that basically changed my life. That then led to me setting up my own agency where what I did for One Rebel, which was building their brand and marketing strategy, bringing creators and influencers in, building out brand partnerships, events, all of that stuff with zero experience, I might add. That is what led to me building an agency to do that for other brands. Now, I think at the peak of that agency, I had like 10 to 15 employees. Some of them were consultants, some of them were freelance. It was a pretty small entity, but I would say we were revving up to like £500,000 at the height of that business. Now, that does not mean I'm making a lot of money. Don't forget, you have rent, you have salaries, you have subscriptions. Like, it was a very stressful experience. And I've spoken before about how that basically led to me going sober because some of my nightclub clients and restaurant clients, I mean, we were working with like luxury restaurants in Mayfair where I could go in and just quite literally like have free drinks, free food, take whoever I wanted. The whole thing was just like such a blur and such a whirlwind. And the stress throughout doing it, like the stress of clients constantly leaving, the stress of employees leaving, or the stress of having to hire people but not knowing if you have enough money, and then hiring the wrong people and hiring people that were junior because you didn't have enough money to hire someone mid-tier or senior, and then being stuck in these cycles of like some good days and then some bad days. And I had some amazing employees, people that I'm still friends with. I also had some not so amazing employees and people that did not make my life easier. And that's partially on me and it's partially on them. But there were a lot of things that were very stressful for me in that business. And I think it was my first experience of realizing like, I don't necessarily know if I want to be the boss of a lot of people. I am a very sensitive human being and I'm not very good with like firing someone or telling someone that what they've done wasn't good enough. And I'm a lot better at giving non-emotional feedback now, but I definitely found that hard at the time. So running that agency was like the next part of my business. And to anyone that is running or scaling an agency, I will say, well done to you. It's not for the faint-hearted. And I think a lot of people today, they start out as a freelancer or a consultant. And then maybe when they start doing really well, they think that they should expand. And that's when they start to hire either an assistant or people to support them. And more times than not, I have seen people doing that because they think it's going to make their life easier. But what I've also realized is that actually hiring someone does not make your life easier until you have processes in place where they can come in and be very clear what they are doing, what they are delivering, and how they are doing that. Because if you hired someone into your business tomorrow, it's not necessarily going to make your life easier. You have to show them about the business. You have to show them how you work. You have to show them how you invoice, what project management systems you do, whether you use Slack or Monday.com. So that's something that I see is that like people can start to do quite well at consulting or freelancing. And then they think that to grow, they should hire more people. And then, wow, that is when things get really difficult. So I got to the point where I was like, I don't think this is really working for me. Again, I was doing very well. The brands I was working with were like Nike and Freeletics and launching 25 plus fitness studios around the world, working with 5-star hotels, 5-star restaurants, Monkey House, like you name it. From the outside, my life looked perfect, but it was not on the inside. Not to mention that at that period, my ex-boyfriend was also going to jail. So that was quite stressful. Alongside the fact that I had never even gone to therapy at this point. So I was just living my life through smoking 20 cigarettes a day, going to the gym 6 times a week. I was just really like running on empty and running on fuel. So things kind of came crashing down, which I do think is the reality of running a business if you don't have the right support around you. And I think that female founder burnout and female solopreneur burnout. And I shouldn't say female, but like I'm female. All the people I work with are female, and most of the people listening to this are female. So that's why I'm saying female. But burnout is such a real thing. And it really has been something I have gone through so many times, whether I was burning out as a lawyer, whether I was burning out as an agency owner, whether I've been burning out as a podcaster and a creator. We will get to that. It's very real. And I'm 36 years old now. And I would say that for the first time ever, as a result of what's happened for me the last few months, I started to finally see how I can do this without burning out anymore. I'm going to share that with you. So I closed down the business and I moved to New York just to work with one client that paid me $6,000 a month. I was like, that is a lot of money. That is great. I get to live in New York. They fly me there. They put me up in a 5-star hotel. This is perfect. I can basically close down the agency while still doing what I love and making great money. So I did that. And then that somehow took me over to LA. And then that client came to an end. And at this point was when I stepped into therapy for the first time ever. So as one chapter comes to an end, I always truly believe that another is opening. And even if it's not a consecutive chapter, like, oh, this door's closed, this one's open, I definitely think that there's like liminal space between chapters in our lives. So what I have learned is that when things aren't making sense, maybe like the situation that I'm in right now, I've now allowed and trusted myself to have space to allow the unfolding and to allow the becoming, rather than thinking like that one door needs to lead to the next door to lead to the next door. Like it doesn't really work like that. As much as we would like life and business to be linear, it's not. And as much as we'd like to go from A to B, we don't. We get from A to B by curving and meandering and going up and down and going on these beautiful and crazy journeys that only make sense in hindsight. But by the time I made it to LA, I had stepped inside the therapy room. I was still living with this really bad chronic pain disorder, which I haven't even mentioned, that I was living with like the whole way through this experience. So I was smoking weed all the time, but I was in like a very creative mode of my life. And I decided that I wanted to start a podcast called Soul Season. And I also decided, because I guess my background in business had always been like looking ahead at the trends and what's going to be being done in 5 years. So that's kind of who I am. And I've always been like ahead of the pack because that's what my job has required of me. And in a way, that's amazing. Like, I love that my job is like trends and predictions and creating brands that don't exist. But it's also kind of lonely because you're a bit of a black sheep when you are thinking 5 years ahead or talking about stuff like energetic trauma release or nervous system work when no one else is, and everyone else is calling you crazy and calling you weird. So it definitely exacerbated my like black sheep family wound a little bit. But I decided, this was probably, literally like 6 or 7 years ago, that I wanted to start the first ever non-toxic online marketplace. So there are a number of them online now, but I was becoming aware of how many toxins there were in products. Again, no one was talking about this 6 or 7 years ago. Even now, if you talk about like endocrine disruptors in your products, people are like, shut up, I don't want to hear about it. So I was definitely too early on that business, and it's probably a good thing that it didn't come to fruition. And one thing I will say is like, one of the hardest things I find is I have so many business ideas, but I'm not necessarily like great at executing them and following them through. And that's something else I've been really reflecting on the last few months, because it's not a bad thing. Reflecting on the things that we are good at, which for me is the initial vision and the concepting and the trends and the ideas, and then reflecting on what we're bad at, which is the execution or managing the team, can help us understand why maybe the job roles that we're in, or maybe the entrepreneurial paths that we are so desperately trying to make work, aren't necessarily the ones that work for us. Anyway, this was the time that I finally had been biohacking. I had been in these progressive wellness spaces, and someone said to me, Louise, have you connected the dots between emotional suppression and chronic pain? And that was what took me into the therapy room. Now, going into the therapy room helped me see that no one had ever done a podcast around therapy. No one had ever done a podcast around live streaming their therapy. And that was what came next. So the next part of my career was Healing Honeys. Again, initially it was so fun. I did it on my own. There was no pressure around it. I just recorded with a podcast mic. There was no camera, there was no lights, there was no setup. it was very raw and real and very easy in hindsight. And that's something that I'm realizing is like, as a manifesting generator, when things are easy, I'm starting to realize that it means that I'm on the right path. And that really conflicts with my belief that I have to grind, I have to work for the things that I want. And I used to be very resistant to people saying, like, oh, it should just be easy. Like, if you're on the right track, it should be easy. And I think there's also this misconception that, like, if something's going to work, it should just work so quickly and the money should come to you. And if it's not working, then it's not right. So I've always been very conflicted about like knowing that you have to give things time, but also knowing that you have to trust and listen to your intuition and your soul destiny. And that to some extent, like things should be easy. And initially the podcast was easy. It felt so great. I loved it so much. And I guess it's because there was no pressure on it to be my sole source of income. I was still taking on, I guess, a couple of brand consultancy jobs here and there. They paid well, probably between $5,000 and $10,000 per project. So it was like, even if I only did one in a month, I would be having a great time. Some months I would be making like $20,000 or $30,000 while still working on my terms and doing my podcast. So things were like really good at that point. And what I would say is that then my podcast blew up and my TikTok blew up. And that led to me deciding to go all in on my podcast. Now, I think there comes a point where we all are considering jumping into a side hustle full time or considering going all in on our business idea. And I think that that ties back to the theme of today's episode, which is that we've kind of been taught that that is the end goal. And I felt like that as well. I obviously was having visions at that point of my life being a podcaster and my career being a podcaster and me just making money by showing up once a week and sitting on a podcast and helping the world and healing the world. And it probably in a way felt exactly right at that moment. So I followed that path. But what that path entails is getting people to listen to your podcast. Podcasts don't just like appear in your feed, you know, randomly. Like you have to post about them. You have to talk about them. And one thing that I do not think people think about is the concept of a funnel. So if you think of a funnel like a triangle, where if you have the thing that you want people to purchase or you want people to listen to at the bottom of your funnel, you need to take people through a journey to get to that point of the funnel. And if you do not understand the basics of a funnel or of marketing, and you are thinking about starting your own business, if you do not know how the funnel works and you don't know how to navigate a funnel, please do not jump into the business. You have things to learn before getting there. Now, I'd love to do a whole episode on a funnel and the conversion rates of social media to a link in bio and the conversion of a sign up to an email list, and then the conversion of a sign up to an email list to a click through, and a conversion from a click through to a sale or a click through to a listen. You know, there are journeys that you need to take people on to get them to do the thing that you want them to do. And there's many different ways that you can get people to find you or to listen to you or to buy from you. But what I will say is that for me in the podcast, that meant showing up on social media. And initially, I was so happy to do that. Like, it was so fun. I was full of so much energy. I was like, this is it. I made it. Like, I'm being sent some free products, like nothing really crazy, but life felt fun. It didn't really feel like work. And things just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger until my podcast got to like 300,000 streams a month. At which point it was time to get signed. So I reached out to United Talent. They signed me an ad deal. And I will say that the moment that I signed an ad deal and that my passion became my job, everything started to change. Now, not necessarily change for the worst, but there is an insane amount of pressure on meeting targets and having to do certain things to reach targets. You have brand sponsors expecting you to reach targets. And at the same time as that, I was becoming a social media influencer. I had built these very big audiences on TikTok, on Pinterest. And as a result of that, I then started to look at brand deals. Now, this is where I really started to enter into territory that I think in hindsight was like so out of alignment with like who I am as this businesswoman that I've told you about. And I'd kind of hybrided from like being a businesswoman to being a creator. And I got into that space where everyone tells you like, that is the dream. You just get paid for existing. You don't have to like show up to work every day. You get sent free stuff by brands. You get to go on brand trips. And what I will say is it opened my eyes to the reality of the influencer world. And I don't want to be negative. Like my sister-in-law says, one of the things that I love about you, Louise, is you never bitch about anyone and like you're not negative. So this is always like delivered with love, but like the influencer world is kind of bullshit, if I'm totally honest. Because what I've realized is if you want a brand to pay you, you need to be on their radar. How do you get on their radar? You post about their product. You say that you love their product. You then get on their radar. You then secure a brand collaboration. Now, in all honesty, the brand doesn't give a fuck about you, really. That isn't the truth. There's definitely some brands that do. And I've had some really beautiful, amazing partnerships. But like, brands just care about selling. They're in business to sell. They're not in businesses to make beautiful, kind, loving relationships. So there's a pressure on you to sell. That is why you see promo codes all over the internet. That is why you see red light masks all over the internet. That is why you see influencers saying this is their favorite electrolyte. This is their favorite supplement. They might not even feel that way. They might just know that that brand has budget to pay creators. And so they are trying to get on to the creator kind of team within that brand. And I don't really know what was going on within me, but I just know that that never, ever felt right for me. And I think it's because like, this is me. If you're watching on video, this is my reality, okay? I'm in a black t-shirt that's covered in cat hair. I'm not wearing a bra. I'm wearing 3 stripes that I love, but they have like a very weird stain on them that I'm not quite sure what that is. I've got no socks on and I really need to get a pedicure. My white nail polish has like grown out and it's gross. And my acrylics have grown out so much. This one is like about to flick off and it's really fucking painful. So there is something about me that's just like, I don't live my life to be like on camera the whole time. I can look pretty, I can dress up, but like I'm mostly happy just like being in a t-shirt and some track pants and just having my hair up in a slick back bun and like having a bit of makeup on, right? Like my life doesn't really revolve around taking pictures of myself. So I found that really difficult. And then I started to do some partnerships where it just like didn't end very well. They were like, oh, you're not like selling enough product. And I was like, yeah, because your product is shit. Your product's not going to sell because like the brand's like not very good and the website's not very good. And I can do my part, which like you're contracting me to do, but like I just can't. Anyway, then I started to realize like, okay, I'm in the position that everyone and their mother wants to be in. You know, we're told like, oh, just quit your job, start your own business, become a creator, document your life, share your life, you'll blow up, everything will become easy. And I'm going to tell you that I don't want to be a limiting belief here, but I just have not had that experience. So I was starting to experience some anxiety over the last few months, a huge amount of intuition in my gut saying like, kind of that I'm on the wrong path, but without saying that, because it didn't really feel like that. I just was having like anxiety and knowing that like something's not really working. And I think it's time for me to like reflect where I have got to. And I think if you ignore those things, you never open up the door for the opportunities to come in to help you solve them. And what I will say is that I started to look at the things that like weren't working for me. And one of those was managing a team. One of those was the pressure of showing up on social media and making content the whole time. And one of those was the pressure to like deliver on these brand collaborations and like show up and be featuring products all the time in my day-to-day life. Because let's not forget, I started this podcast just to connect with people about what I was learning and share what I was learning. And I like to think that the podcast still does that. I really have like never really veered too far away from that. But I felt like in the other areas of my life, I had kind of moved away from who I was at my core. So I started to acknowledge that I was waking up like feeling anxious to hear from my management team. And I'm also a big believer that like when things are not working, it's like there's like a sign, right? So I could feel that my assistant at the time, like I could feel that she was off. I could feel that I was off. Like I could just feel that energetically I wasn't aligned and that something wasn't really working. And so I faced up to those and I started talking with my boyfriend and I started having a couple of therapy sessions to talk about these things So what happened next? I get an email from an old client of mine based in London, a 5-star luxury hotel group that I had previously worked with, probably one of the very last jobs that I worked with before I decided to go all in on the podcast. And I got an email from them saying, we are launching an incredible venture in 2026. We would like you to be the lead consultant, the wellness director, and to lead on this project. Would you be interested? Now, this was a no-brainer for me. I never thought that I was going to step back into this space. But what I will tell you is that it felt so obviously right in my body that it was just so obvious that that was the thing that I had to do next. But what happened next, I never could have anticipated. So I took on this project. We agreed a monthly retainer. It was probably 4 times the amount of what I was making podcasting. It was chunky. It was substantial. And it was the closest to a 9-to-5 job that I've ever got. And what I mean by that is I had a scope of work. I had things to deliver. I had things to present. And I was valued. I was appreciated. I got to contribute to a team on a fixed schedule. And also when the calls were done, I got to switch off. Like I literally got to enjoy my evenings without stressing about posting on social media, without stressing about the number of streams on my podcast, without stressing that ad people were going to drop me from their roster, without stressing that brands were going to drop me from their deals. And for the first time in my life, I experienced work-life balance. And when I tell you that I could never have anticipated what that did for my nervous system, for the first time in my life, by basically saying to myself, like, I'm okay to not go out and try and sign brand deals. I'm okay to not post products. I'm okay to not post what I'm doing in my fucking day-to-day life. I'm going to focus on this one project because I've got enough money from that project and I want to give it my all. Guys, when I tell you I have never felt more calm in my nervous system, I would go to bed, I would sleep for 9 hours, I would wake up the next morning, I would have no anxiety. I wouldn't care to check my phone. I didn't care what people were doing on social media. I didn't care what happened when emails came in. There was no anxiety. I just got to be. And for the first time in my life, I got to have time to go to the gym on my terms. I had time to go to the supermarket on my terms. And then this is where things get really weird. I started having these dreams that I was cleaning out cupboards in my house. And then I started wanting to actually clean my house. And no, I'm not pregnant and I'm not nesting before any of you query that. But oh my God, I swear that I was energetically clearing out the old energy that I was holding on to from past timelines, from past versions of me that I needed to shed, that I needed to let go of. I literally have been hoovering my house like 3 times a day. Like, what the fuck? It's amazing. I'm like obsessed with this new Hoover that I've purchased. My mum would like honestly think I was having a mental breakdown and would like check me in somewhere if she heard me saying this. Like you would like never have found me touching a Hoover in my previous life. I mean, previous life before what has been going on recently. So it has just been this amazing experience. And if you are watching on video, like I just look healthy as fuck. I recorded a podcast today about the bioenergetics of beauty, and Sarah and Nelly, the girls that I was recording with, they were like, Louise, you look 25 years old. My skin is glowing. I've been going to the gym. I've been losing weight. My body has been shredding body fat because I've like not been stressed. I've been listening to podcasts. I've been walking 5 to 10,000 steps a day. I've been spending quality time with my boyfriend. We've been connecting beautifully. I just like can't get over what the stability in my nervous system from this job has given me. And so that is my full circle tie up from today's episode, is that we are told that having a job is bad. We shouldn't have a job. You know, it's kind of like loosely shamed that like, oh, you've got a job. Like, oh, the freelance consultancy world is like kind of what you should be doing. And if you haven't experienced this, then that's great and just ignore what I'm talking about. But many of you, I'm sure, will have experienced it and maybe thought like, should I go out on my own? And when I tell you that it has actually had me querying like whether I would accept a full-time job with this hotel group and whether I would close down my podcast, whether I would close down my social media, and just live a normal life where I'm not on show and I'm not, talking to a wall. I said to you guys, I love it so much when you text me because honestly, hundreds of thousands of people listen to this podcast each month and maybe 5 people message me. And that is just, I'm not complaining, but it's just like the weirdest experience ever to put your heart and energy into something and then just like never hear back from anyone. And to not have to post on social media unless I want to. It's just been this like really revolutionary period where I think I started to realize like, yeah, this stability is so good for my nervous system. This financial security is so good for my nervous system. And it's given me space to just be for the first time ever and to allow myself to look inwards and to introspect and to read books on human design. And when I went into my human design, oh my goodness, everything started to make so much more sense. And I just feel like the space that this job has given me has been so powerful, not only like healing and in its own right, but also that it doesn't feel like a step back. It feels like a step forward because I'm working on this incredible progressive project that is going to be disruptive in the industry. It's going to be the exact kind of place that I want to be associated with and that I want to spend my time and that I want to have my name attached to. And at the same time, I started having conversations with other female entrepreneurs around me, other female solopreneurs around me. The overwhelming and overriding piece of feedback was just that they don't want to do it on their own. They are feeling the weight of constantly having to show up, of constantly having to post, of constantly having to get people to sign up and sign up to the link in bio and sign up to my free masterclass and posting TikToks and Instagram reels. It is exhausting. And no one tells you that it is exhausting. And sure, some people will love it. Again, this episode is not going to be for everyone. I just am sharing what I have been going through and how I've been seeing this being reflected by many people around me in their journeys as well. And now I'm starting to understand why I have burnt out so many times in my life because I'm experiencing work-life balance for the first time in my life. I probably work like 4 to 6 hours a day on things that I'm really interested in. I hop on podcasts when they feel good rather than feeling that I have to do it. And I've just stopped making social media content. You've probably seen that. And I'm starting to realize that I think I was fighting so hard upstream to be a bigger influencer, be a bigger creator, be more successful, please the people that I work with, please my management team, please my agency, please you guys, that in a way I was kind of people pleasing through my work without me even realizing it. So I'm curious as to whether you guys have gone through anything similar. And I just think we're going to start to see a shift back to working together collectively in groups and groups of women working together that have different skill sets. And remember, this is my job, focusing ahead. I think we're going to see extreme social media burnout from anyone that is trying to do a business online, that is trying to function running a business offline while showing up online. And I think that we sit at our desks 12 hours a day on our own, and it's not how us or our nervous systems were born to function. So I think we're really going to see a shift in that. I think we're going to see a shift in the ways that we work. And I think we're going to see a shift of people returning back to working in businesses or working on more stable projects where there's more recurring income. And yeah, it might be slightly less than the potential sky high ceiling that you could achieve if you were to be on your own and to blow up. And of course, some people are going to keep doing it on their own and they're going to blow up. Good for them. Who knows what is around the corner? But all I know is that for me, it's okay to say out loud that maybe I was going down a path that wasn't the path for me. And maybe I was actually just completing a cycle and a really beautiful cycle. And maybe it's natural that cycles come to an end and that things aren't supposed to last forever. And that maybe at 36 years old, I just want to be living a life where I don't post on social media unless I want to. And so I know that raises some big questions about what is going to happen on the podcast. And I think we will probably be taking a break, but not for a couple of months. So you can still expect me in your ear for a good couple of months from now on. But I think I want to take a bit of a break. I have been podcasting for 4.5 years and I've only taken one break during that period. So as I'm evolving and working out what I'm interested in, I also want to take some space to work out what I want to talk about. And there's a lot of me that feels like I've been in the healing space for many, many years. And I honestly feel like I've done so much work that I have up leveled and I am ready to move on to what is next, which is optimization, which is performance, which is wellness, which is just living a really fucking happy, fulfilling life. I want to optimize my fertility. I want to optimize my weight. I want to optimize my diet, my relationships, my career. And so I think this is what we are going to see as part of my evolution. And for daily devotion, my monthly healing subscription, that is still one of my main businesses. And I still spend time on it every single week. But yeah, this is what I have been going through the past few months. And it's been a real journey. I will also tell you guys, this is juicy, this is tea. Did you guys listen to the Soul Tie episode? Well, of course, I fucking posted the Soul Tie episode. And where was I when I posted the Soul Tie episode? I just got to London. Who was in London? Who was in London? Who texted me when I was in London? The Soul Tie guy. So if you do not believe in soul ties, that fucking episode was so spot on because posting that episode opened up the energetic connection again. So wow, that is a whole different episode for another time. But for now, thank you for sharing in my evolution. Nothing will be changing around here for the next few months. But enjoy these podcast episodes because there will be a time when we will come to a pause on Healing Honeys. And I just want you guys to enjoy every moment. So thank you so much for joining me. Remember, go and get your free whoop in the caption. And most of all, give yourself grace that whatever you are going through right now in your career, it's a journey, it's an evolution. If I look back at the journey that I've taken you on today, my career has been the most non-linear thing in the world, but I'm at a place where I feel really happy. I feel really excited. I'm surrounded by great women that I love talking to and working with, and everything is just going well. So thank you so much for joining. Do not feel this pressure that being a freelancer or being a creator is going to make all of your dreams come true. Do not feel this pressure that you should just go out on your own and quit your job because like your 9 to 5 and your nice solid salary is not enough. There is beauty in stability. There is beauty in consistency. And there is also beauty in following your soul's path. But that doesn't always have to be in your 9 to 5. It can sometimes be in your 5 to 9 before work, your 5 to 9 after work, on your weekends and in your holidays. Your soul purpose can be your hobbies, your passions, charities. There's so many ways that you can explore and expand that don't have to just be in your career and serving. Thank you so much for listening. I love you guys so much and I will talk to you very soon. Love you.